So I just had an amazing call with Rachael Authors. If you don't know who Rachael Authors is yet, you need to add her on LinkedIn. She's incredible. She's a co-contributor to the differently abled community, and she is the founder of AccessToEvents in Toronto. So especially if you're in the Toronto area, you need to look her up and connect. She's amazing. Come on in, check out the discussion that we had. Let me know your thoughts. What's one suggestion that you have to continuously advocate for the differently abled community, whether it's mental health or physical health and wellness and overcoming those challenges? What's one thing you suggest that anybody can do today to keep pushing progress forward? Let us know. We'd love to hear it.
I feel like I'm being interviewed on national television.
Yeah, this is definitely not national television. Accessibility is super, underestablished in the world, not just in the United States, not just in Canada.
No, everywhere. Yeah.
Everywhere.
And we think we've made progress, and we have, but there's still a lot of things that need to change.
Rachel, you are so wonderful. I love everything that you stand for. Accessibility, obviously, is something that I've had to deal with in the past, and the differently able community is constantly working through to deal with the accessibility and trying to accomplish every single thing in a daily, in a normal world, right? The world built for the healthy human doesn't have these challenges. So can you tell me a little bit more about AccessToEvents, what it is and how you got started with it?
I am an occupational therapist in Toronto. So I've had a pretty, interesting short career. So I'm a pretty new OT in the field of OT. So I graduated 2014. However, I always had a passion for accessibility. So before I did my master's in OT, I was working with students. So that's, where I really started working and advocating with, individuals that had different abilities. And I thought, well, how could I get involved, in a community and still be able to advocate, yet, go on and do further education. So I ended up doing a master's in OT, and I did some interesting roles. So I initially worked with students. And I worked with, so I actually went back to the same university I was working at before my master's, and I managed accommodations for youth with physical and sensory diagnoses. So that was pretty interesting. But I could see when I was there, how much the students would get out of, peer mentorship activities, and when you could bring the community together and they could share experiences. So I thought that was interesting. Then I went on and did a contract with an assistive technology company, which was again really interesting. But you could see by wearing that device, how much clients could participate and get out in the world. And then by doing that, they share their experiences with others who were involved in their community, right? So I thought, and then again, during my master's, I was involved with youth who would get involved in social activities, and they would just love it. And it was different to the traditional therapy where you sit in a group, and talk about your experiences. But if you go out and about and you're doing an activity, naturally, you get, clients talking to each other, right? And then you get those mentorship opportunities. So I thought, well, wouldn't this be fabulous if I could start something, where, clients could go out and about, explore Toronto, but yet also get together as a community, which we know well on LinkedIn, how powerful that can be.
Yeah.
New friendships, network, and then have those peer mentorship activities, where you maybe talk to one another and then find out, hey, that person's got a job. How did they get that job? What was the experience? Just little nuances here and there that I really believe that with these activities, we can create something really, really strong in the community and, and really powerful. So that's really what AccessToEvents is about. It is bringing the community together to explore Toronto, but also participate in these fun social events. And I also do want to have family members too, and friends, and caregivers come too, so it's so that clients feel comfortable. So there's a lot of exciting opportunities ahead.
I love it. I love how your program really removes those limitations, right? They remove the preconceived notions. They remove the any kind of obstacle that's there to bring down the barriers and bring in all of that community and all of that knowledge.
And empowerment. That's the big thing, and positivity.
It's such an underserved community, and it's so hard to shed light on it when people don't ever experience it. They don't have those challenges is really something that people have to continue advocating for in order to make any kind of progress, right? So what would be your piece of advice in advocating for this community, for access, for accessibility?
Well, I think a big thing is also always listening to your clients. So, and you know, that's the one thing with me that you can't expect that everyone will have the same experience. May challenge someone with that same diagnosis may not be the same for someone else. So I think that's really key. And language is big too. So I know one thing I love, Chantel, is that you use the term differently abled. You know, that's so much more positive than saying disability. I mean, that's still a term that's going to be used, you know, globally. It's universally known. But at the same time, to say that someone has a different ability, you know, it's just like I'm good at some things and I'm not good at other things. That's human nature. So really, if you have a diagnosis, it's, you know, it's similar. We may be good at other things and we may have great skills to offer in other areas.
What can we do? Like, what can anybody do to make a step forward in advocating for this community, for providing accessibility? What's one thing that you suggest they do?
I think being open, just being more open, because that's the one thing with employment that I think as much as we have moved forward with changing attitudes, we're still not quite there yet. And I think it's important, you know, even from the beginning when you're posting a job, you know, recognizing that someone may need different access, you know, making that post accessible, you know, just little things here and there, but being open, I think, is the big thing. And not focusing on the disability, but focusing on that person's ability. I think that's key with, and that really goes from employment to everyday life to the built environment. You know, it's if you're designing a storefront, for example, being open that a person may be coming into your store with a wheelchair and may need, you know, a ramp there, not having a stair.
Stairs, yeah, or a lift.
Yeah, so it's just being open, I think, and, you know, changing those thought processes.
When you work with a client on a project, what's one thing that they can expect? Like a new client coming to you to engage in your services?
One thing is feeling comfortable and being able to let me know too what they need, you know. So that's the one thing about being OT. We are there to be creative, and you know, when a client thinks that the impossible is there, we're there as OTs to try and, you know, break that down. And I think that's key. I mean, as an example, I've reached out to a major attraction in Toronto, and there's this is actually funny. There's a big, huge roller coaster at this attraction, but yeah, they let me know, hey, there's a lift. Someone in a wheelchair can access this ride. So, you know, someone may not think that they can actually, you know, do something, but yeah, you know, come and talk to me, and we can try and, you know, collaborate here. And certainly that's the whole idea with AccessToEvents. I want to provide an accessible, inclusive experience.
That's so awesome. So how can people contact you?
So you can go to my website. So that's www.accesstoevents.com. And then you can find all my contact details. And of course, I'm on LinkedIn.
Of course.
So if you are,
I want to go to Toronto so bad.
Come, Chantel, you have to go.
So, you know what's really funny is one of my conditions is that I lose my vision when my heart rate goes up. So when I lost my vision, a lot of my nerves were damaged, and now I get these pseudo relapses, right? So when I exercise, my vision goes again. And it's really scary. So I stopped working out and I stopped doing all of these crazy things. But I just discovered that there's actually seeing runners, right? So you can work out and you can go on these runs with seeing runners. You get your own buddy to help you. Isn't that so cool? So when I think about AccessToEvents, I think about these people who just out of the kindness of their hearts want you to experience everything in life that everybody else does and not let any kind of limitation stop you. So I'm so thankful for you and for what you're doing in Toronto, and I can't wait to come out there and hang. Thank you so much for jumping on here with me.
Thank you for having me. You know, never think that your disability will limit you, and just think that's the one thing actually about you know, you see a lot of positive messages on LinkedIn, and I love it because it's all about never giving up. And actually you epitomize that. So it's just, you know, keep going and sharing a message. And that's another thing too. I think people with different abilities can really help the community learn too and grow and really inspire. So
learn, grow, communicate,
yeah.
inspire.